Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Chris here, and today we're going to be watching a video from Scott Galloway on the housing market crisis in Australia and what you should do instead of buying a house or how to buy a house. See what he says. I've watched a few of his clips before. He's pretty insightful, pretty interesting guy. If you have watched the channel before, make sure to subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 by the end of the month. That's about 15 days, about 400 subs. I think we can do it. So make sure to subscribe if you want to, support the channel. Let's get into it.
But the tax advantages of real estate in Australia versus the U.S. Real estate is a fantastic way to build wealth over time and pass on intergenerational wealth in the U.S. because it's tax advantaged. You can write off your mortgage interest rate. You can roll it into another property within 6 months if it's a commercial property without paying taxes. You can lever up 4 or 5 to 1. And also, I would say from a consumption standpoint, if you're in a position at some point to buy a house, it has psychic benefits because it feels like nesting and it feels like you're committing to something and you can fix it up. So what I would suggest is, don't lever up to buy a lot of real estate in a market where traditionally the yield on that real estate, what you could rent it out for, is remarkably low. And my sense is,
Yeah. So I think here in Australia, right, you can buy $1 million houses, but yet, like in Brisbane at least, some of them rent out for only $600-700. So you're pretty stupid to be buying $1 million house. Well, you're not stupid, but it's insane. Like if you do a 10% deposit, you're paying like $300, $400, $500 more than the rent every week to pay off that mortgage. And the good old saying that when you own your house, the mortgage is the minimum you'll pay. Because shit always goes wrong. You got to repair an AC, you got to repair a toilet, all the fun stuff. Maybe your window cracks, you got to repair that. You got home insurance, you got all these extra things that people don't think about when buying a house. And at the moment, yeah, it's just crazy expensive. But there's a lot of sentiment around Australian real estate and that it's so fantasized about, and it does seem like it only goes up, and that's probably the most risky position to be in, right? When something seems like it only goes up, that's probably the most risky time to get into it, right? I'd love to hear what you guys think below. A lot of you guys, I've seen your comments on previous videos and say like, oh, the market's going to skyrocket, interest rates are coming down, all this, and this, which I think is true to some extent. But man, there's going to be some point where people can't afford these houses anymore. Like I think I watched a video, and Sydney is now the most unaffordable country in the world, city in the world, right? It's even past Hong Kong because Hong Kong prices have actually come down. But Australia just keeps going up, right? It's crazy. I think it's like 15 times median income now, or 14. It keeps going up every time I watch a video on it. It just, that multiple keeps going up and up and up. It's got to come down at some point. Like you look at back in 2008 with America, their housing market, like it made no sense. It just kept going up and people just kept buying because, you know what, I don't understand it. It's going to keep going up. I'm going to keep buying. But it crashed. And is the same thing going to happen here in Australia? I don't know. I hope it sort of does before I get in. But if I get in and then it crashes, I'm going to be pretty cut about that.
you're in that period right now in Australia where just real estate relative to rent is so expensive that in some cases you just might be better off renting. Kind of do the math and then decide, well, maybe we'd be better off renting and putting our money into other assets. Because real estate, anytime someone tells you something always goes up, that usually means it's about to fall 30%. And, real estate came way down in the United States in 2008 through 2011. In some neighborhoods, it came down 50 or 60%. And if you were levered up, all your equity got wiped out. So I think it's situational. And, how much money do you have? Where are you in your life? Where are you planning to buy? But if it's I'm going to have to spend 50% of my pre-tax income on a mortgage and really lever up, and I'm buying at what feels like kind of a historical high in terms of the yield, you may want to think about speaking to some people who are smart and say, should I maybe rent and take some money and put it in other assets until maybe
Yeah. that's pretty smart, right? Like if you know, instead of, obviously there's that statistic where technically you're better off if you rent your whole life and invest the difference into the stock market. You're technically better off. However, 90% of people won't invest the difference. So that's the best part about a house, right? Is it's a forced savings account, and if you put extra money into it, you're directly paying down that mortgage way faster. Like an extra payment every month, or sorry, I think it's like an extra monthly payment in a year brings your mortgage down from 30 to 23 or something. I don't know the exact numbers, but it might cut off like 7 years of your mortgage for just making one extra monthly payment every year. That's easy. It's not easy, but it's realistic. Like people can realistically do that, and you're directly paying off your mortgage compared to investing in stocks where there's potentially it might go up. You're sort of, you're guessing. Although these days with ETFs, it's a pretty safe market to buy in, but yet at the same time, US and Australian stocks are at all-time highs in, one of the worst economic positions in the world. Like globally, there's war, there's, tariffs, there's so many factors that make this time in our life very, very dangerous, and like dangerous in terms of investing and making money. It's very risky, I think. However, do you do nothing and just wait on the sidelines? Probably not. Probably not the best situation to be in.
Market rationalizes, or I have enough money that I can think of a house as consumption as opposed to an investment. But long term, there have been few ways that you can build kind of intergenerational wealth better than real estate, because it does usually over the medium and the long term go up. And unfortunately, in modern economies, the rich have weaponized housing codes. And I don't know if this is true in Australia, but in the US,
100%. 100%. The rich have, they utilize all the tax benefits they can. Is it the reason house prices are so expensive? I don't really know. Like, it's hard to say, right? House prices are expensive because I think just they're so fantasized about, right? Everyone will pay any sort of money for a house. They just spend. That's the sad truth of it, right? Like, it doesn't matter how high they go, as long as someone can get a mortgage for that amount, they'll pay it. And with interest rates coming down, people can get bigger mortgages. Eventually, it's just, and with immigration, the demand is so high for Australian housing, and the supply is no way, like in any stretch of the imagination, able to keep up with the amount of people that we're pumping into this country.
The moment the incumbents own a home, they get very concerned with traffic and show up to the local review board and make it almost impossible to build new housing, which creates artificial scarcity, which drives up the value of the current.
So we don't even need homeowners to do that. The government artificially creates scarcity. They don't build or open up enough areas to build. They don't, have too much red tape. I think over the last couple of years that the building process has, been extended because there's too much red tape. We're not allowed to build in, residential areas, big commercial buildings, or not commercial, but multi-story units, which is fair enough. Like, people don't want that, but at some point it's going to happen. If we're going to be pumping this many people into the country and we're not spreading out enough, we're all clumping together in, 5 or 6 major cities, then something's got to change.
Homes and increases the wealth of the incumbents. And some of these government policies, which make it hard, which create, we need 1.5 more million housing units a year to satisfy household formation than we actually create. We have artificial scarcity in our elite colleges. It's great once you have a degree. It's great once you have a house, but all that does is make it harder for new entrants and benefits the incumbents. And I think that a lot of modern economies, their housing market gets weaponized. Australia, you have like one person for every 7 million miles. You guys have like, it's ridiculous that housing would be that expensive there. And but the government is probably.
Yeah. We all just want to live in the same, places. Even when you go look at like country towns, they're not really spread out anymore. They have suburbanized and people move to the country to go live in a suburb, pretty much, instead of spreading out. They clump together, and that's what, I don't know, that's how Australia is. We all just clump together into small areas.
Figured out a way to limit the scarcity because people who own, the incumbents who own homes, who have a tendency to have a disproportionate voice in government, really like artificial scarcity. And we have become that in spades in the United States.
Yeah. There's 100% scarcity around housing when there should not be. We have so much land to people ratio. But yeah, it doesn't work out for us, right? I'd love to hear what you guys think below. This is another quick video. I'm trying to see whether you guys like quick videos, long videos, short videos, medium. Comment down below what you like. Try and make more of those. And comment down below what you want to see next, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.